Whenever people speak of their favorite RPG franchises, Suikoden is often mentioned. Fans of the series have fond tales of where they were when they first played Suikoden 1 and 2, and those that stayed with the series beyond that can also tell you a thing about 3, 4, and 5. Even so, many of the same gamers that played the mainline series missed out on Suikoden Tierkreis, which came out on the Nintendo DS 3 years after the last title on the PlayStation. And well, it wasn't precisely what most fans were expecting. Like the other Suikoden titles, it's a traditional turn-based RPG, but there were several differences. In this one, you can only have up to 4 characters in your party at a time, like in Suikoden 4. Runes are replaced by, Marks of the Stars, which substitutes magic points for the rune system so prominently featured in the other titles. This makes it quite a bit different than all the other Suikoden games, but makes the title more similar to other RPGs. Instead of sharpening your weapons via blacksmiths as in the other Suikoden titles, you find weapons throughout the game that can be equipped. Some characters can dual wield 2 weapons, which I actually thought was pretty cool. However, there really isn't an easy way to find out which characters benefit best from certain types of weapons, so you end up having to do a lot of experimentation to find out what works best. It's honestly a drag. I found most of the game to be very easy also, and the battles can be plowed through using the auto attack functionality, but the bosses were much more difficult, I'll give it that. The story of Suikoden Tierkreis takes place in its own universe outside of the continuity of the other Suikoden games. You take the role of Xygor, a young man from Citro Village who is soon brought into a conflict between warring factions. As his journey develops, he becomes involved in a struggle with a mysterious and evil organization. Imagine that. It's pretty cliche and doesn't really match the intrigue of the other Suikoden stories. I do like how the characters appear with various reactions during their dialogue though, which adds a little color to the characters that otherwise may have been much duller. The dialogue sprite visuals are great, but if you ask me, the character designs themselves are a bit too cartoony for my taste. I just think the world of Suikoden works much better with a realistic style. Don't get me wrong, it's visually impressive for a DS game, I just didn't like the approach. Generally, the top screen is used for pictures of local scenery and party status during battles, whereas the bottom screen is used for most of the gameplay. Suikoden Tierkreis does feature the 108 Stars of Destiny as recruitable characters, and this was a requirement to unlock the game's best ending. Undoubtedly, this is the element that makes it most similar to the other games in the series. Fans of RPG music will be pleased to know that Yoshino Aoki and Masaharu Iwata contributed to the soundtrack, both of which were well-regarded composers that hadn't produced Suikoden music before. In sum, it's a wonderful assortment of 74 total tracks, and certainly left an impression on me. In fact, it's truly fantastic. Tears of the Sky, By the Pride of the Sword, and The Fort Where Stars Gather are all fantastic songs, and there's loads more here. The battle music theme is great too. If I had to pick one facet of the game that shines the most, it has to be the soundtrack. The main storyline is also voice acted, but unfortunately the quality of the voices pale in comparison to the music. The main character's voice is especially annoying, I have to say.
Won't know unless we try though, will we? That's what I want to know.
Hey! We don't know that until we try, do we?
Even though the North American version of Suikoden Tierkreis got favorable reviews from some publications, it didn't receive much overall publicity. Many of the fans of the series had actually given up on it by that point. Ever since then, the game has gone mostly unnoticed and was overshadowed by the numbered Suikoden titles. Is this neglect earned though? In many ways I think it is. Removing the rune system was an odd choice that detracted from the lore of the series in an unnecessary way, and altering the weapon system was also a needless choice. The game's cartoony style isn't a good fit either, and the story is the weakest of all Suikoden titles. The characters aren't as memorable, and the game just doesn't give the player that same sense of wonder and betrayal by other games in the franchise. If you're expecting the game to look and feel like the main Suikoden games, I think you'll be disappointed. However, if you're not bound to those expectations, I think you'll find a solid RPG with a lot of redeeming qualities, especially the soundtrack. If it wasn't named Suikoden, I wouldn't hold as many things against this one, but the name gave the game a lot to live up to, and it fell a bit short for me. So, what do you think about Suikoden Tierkreis? Does it meet the quality of the other Suikoden games? Let me know below in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell below for more retro gaming content, and join my Discord community linked in the description. Also, please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.